Hello, my name is Margaret Cole, and I'm coming to you from a small townhouse in Boston, not from the corner office I occupied for nearly 2 decades. It's early spring of 2022, and I'm 62 years old, which in corporate years apparently makes me ripe for optimization. That phrase came courtesy of a young HR associate named Tyler, who probably spent his lunch break crafting my termination notice while sipping an oat milk latte in the break room. I read the email twice. No tears, no shock. Just a flicker of bitter amusement behind my glasses. They thought this was done. They thought I'd fade out like an old company logo on a dusty brochure. Wrong. I set down my coffee burnt stale black and opened the bottom drawer of my oak desk. Inside was a battered red binder I hadn't touched in years, master-client contracts. My fingers flew with the muscle memory of countless late nights editing service scope paragraphs, fixing the mistakes legal never noticed. And there it was. Clause 4.7. Should employee Margaret Cole cease to serve as the dedicated account manager client, retains the right to terminate this agreement immediately and without penalty. Stamped, signed, dated, not once, 3 times. 3 separate $1 million accounts, each one personally secured, each one quietly tied to my continued involvement. They hadn't just fired me, they had yanked the keystone out of their own arch. The best part, I didn't need lawyers or a press release. Just 3 quiet, clean legal triggers waiting to be pulled. I opened a new email window, entered 3 addresses. No greetings, no pleasantries, just the subject line, notice of termination, triggering clause, 4.7. The body was 4 sentences, professional and direct, confirming the conditions had been met, and that per our agreement their right to terminate was now active. I hovered over the send button, took one slow look around the office, the empty cubicles, the flicker of fluorescent bulbs, the faint hum of servers in the background, and clicked. No fanfare, no drama. Just the satisfying appearance of a small confirmation line, message sent. I shut my laptop, slid it into my worn leather tote, and walked toward the elevator. My heels struck the tile in perfect rhythm like a drum roll at the end of a long performance. They had wanted optimization. They were about to get subtraction, $3 million worth to be exact. They didn't even notice I was gone. Wednesday came and went with the usual office noise. Slack pings, the smell of stale bagels left in the break room, and Gary from marketing misusing the word synergy like it owed him rent. My desk sat untouched, the chair still angled from the last time I stood up. Not that anyone cared. Not that anyone noticed. But silence has a funny way of echoing. By Thursday afternoon, the first tremor hit. Nothing dramatic, just a buried message in the team Slack thread. Anyone know who's handling the QBR for client Franklin this week? I don't see it on the calendar. No one answered. Friday brought the second tremor. The weekly status reports didn't go out. The performance dashboard stayed frozen. The new guy, Evan, my so-called replacement, tried to wing the update for client Harper. Problem was, no one had given him Salesforce access. He ended up emailing them an Excel spreadsheet using last quarter's numbers, in Comic Sans. Client Harper replied with a single clinical line. Let's postpone our call until we've reviewed some internal matters. Still no panic. Just puzzled glances and a nervous chuckle from the VP of sales, assuming it was a rookie hiccup. Then came Monday morning. Client Franklin's project portal went dark. Not crashed, not hacked. Disabled credentials revoked clean as a whistle. I'd built it that way, with a single voluntary trigger, no malice, just execution. By 11:03 a.m., an intern flagged it on Jira. By 1:00 p.m., it had opened a ticket titled Urgent Client Access Down. Confirm, admin. That's when my name came up for the first time since my termination. They asked if I still had access. I didn't. I'd walked away clean, left no back door. But I had designed the system. I had built the client dependencies. I had created the entire onboarding and continuity flow, which, by the way, had no assigned backup. They still hadn't put it together. They were playing checkers on a chessboard I'd drawn. Meanwhile, I sat at home in my kitchen barefoot, sipping mint tea I never had time to brew when I worked there. I watched my inbox with quiet detachment, 3 red receipts, no replies. I didn't need them to panic. Not yet. I needed them to feel it first. The creeping uncertainty. The slow, silent leak of control. The realization that something was unraveling and they couldn't find the thread. Back at the office, whispers started. Why weren't clients returning calls? Why were invoices on hold? And why did Janet from finance look like she hadn't slept since Thursday because the glue was gone? And you only realize how much it's holding together when the whole picture starts to fall. Janet from finance looked like she hadn't slept since Thursday, and for good reason. The glue was gone. And the funny thing about glue is you don't realize how much it's holding together until the picture frame hits the floor. Still, I said nothing. Didn't gloat. Didn't stir the pot. I just waited. After all, it's not checkmate if the other side hasn't realized the king's already cornered. Tuesday, 10:41 a.m. The CEO's office phone rang, not his assistant's line, not his cell. The line. The one only 3 clients had. On the other end, client Weston Industries COO. Calm. Precise. Clinical. We're halting all payments effective immediately. Pending internal review. Click. No explanation, no negotiation. Just a pause button slammed down on a $4 million revenue stream, like it was a skippable ad. From what I heard later, the CEO blinked 3 times, then asked the room, "Why the hell is Weston halting payments?" Nobody had an answer. The VP of sales, loud tie, louder mouth, the kind of guy who thought clients were trophies, scrambled. He pulled up Salesforce, clicked through the notes I'd left, and tried to schedule a trust rebuilding call. When he reached out to Harper Manufacturing's account lead, she didn't pick up. Instead, he got an auto reply. Per our contract, direct communications will resume once Clause 4.7 has been reviewed and addressed. Clause 4.7, that's when they started digging. If you've been holding your own quiet victories, subscribe. Now the next chapter will prove just how far a well-timed move can go. First, stop legal. I could picture the paralegals squinting at old scanned PDFs, running their fingers over my red lines, like archaeologists brushing dust off a fossil. It was all there, buried neatly under continuity of service obligations. Each client agreement carried nearly identical language. In the event that Margaret Cole is no longer the designated account representative, the client may at their discretion terminate this agreement without penalty. Each contract signed, each initialed by the CEO himself. I'm told the room went silent, the kind of silence that makes glass feel heavier in the hand when they realized it wasn't just one client, or 2. It was all 3. 3 contracts, 3 triggers, 3 loaded guns, all fired by a single pink slip email HR probably sent from a standing desk while sipping oat milk. And me, I was at home, kitchen window open, pouring a glass of Cabernet that had been collecting dust since my last performance review. I swirled it slowly, watching the tannins catch the afternoon light like smoke in water. The chaos was reaching critical mass. I didn't have to lift a finger. Somewhere, someone in operations tried to call me. I let it ring. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, another email came in from an old coworker I half liked. "Did you know about the clause? This is blowing up." I left it unread. Let the algorithm sweat. By then, the board was involved. The CFO was on speakerphone. Compliance was tearing through archived emails like their jobs depended on it, because they did. The CEO, I'm told, sat in his office flipping through the contracts himself, squinting like a man trying to read a language he'd signed, but never actually spoken. And then came the real twist. Those 3 clauses, they were his idea. Back in 2019, after a particularly messy client defection, he was the one who proposed creating anchor roles to lock in retention. He'd asked me to draft the continuity clauses. He'd told legal to standardize the language. He just never pictured that I would be the anchor, or that they'd be the ones to cut the chain. By 4 p.m., the internal Slack channels were lit up like a Christmas tree. I heard legal try to argue the clause was outdated. Client Harper's in-house counsel reportedly sent back a time-stamped PDF with a single-line contract language does not expire because you forgot it existed. They were losing grip, losing money, losing control. And me, I was in my kitchen arranging a charcuterie board, queuing up my favorite true crime podcast. Let them panic. The Cabernet in my glass tasted like closure. By evening, an emergency meeting had been scheduled for Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. sharp CEO's orders. And when calendar invites go out that early, it's never for muffins and morale. The subject line read, "Urgent client revenue fallout, contractual triggers." Legal would be there. Sales would be there. Finance, too. Two board members were set to zoom in from cities still wrapped in pre-dawn darkness. The atmosphere funeral meets firing squad. And then I noticed I had an invite. No apology. No explanation. Just a cold official calendar block from the CEO's assistant. Your presence is requested to provide clarity on contractual relationships with clients, Franklin Weston and Harper. Not please, not would you be willing. Just requested as if the arsonist had finally remembered where they kept the fire extinguisher. I didn't respond right away. I let the invite sit there on their shared calendar like a ghost with good posture. Let them squirm. Let them wait. But I showed up. Not because I owed them a thing, but because for once they needed me, and I wanted to see their faces when that reality landed. I logged in 2 minutes early. Camera on. Neutral backdrop. The calm of someone who already knows they've won, not a hair out of place. The kind of calm that only comes when you've already won and no one else in the room knows it yet. The CEO started the meeting already on edge. His voice was too loud, forehead shining under the conference room lights, necktie cinched so tight it looked like it was choking him. Let's get straight to it. Legal. How did we miss this clause? He held up a printed contract as if it were a snake someone had slipped into his lunch. The general counsel, a man normally unshakable, and whose tie alone probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, looked pale. Sir, the clause was added at your direction in 2019. I have the email chain. The CEO's eyes flicked to sales. Why didn't we catch this during renewal talks? The VP of sales fumbled, looking like he'd never heard the word retention before. We assumed continuity referred to the department, not the individual. I cleared my throat gently. Every head turned toward me. That assumption, I said, was addressed in the 2021 contract refresh. Section 4.7 subclause, A footnote 2. It explicitly states, Margaret Cole shall remain the dedicated point of contact. Any change in personnel constitutes grounds for immediate termination at the client's discretion. I spoke evenly. Calm, not smug. Just fact delivered in a voice that didn't shake. The CEO blinked. And you knew this would happen? I met his stare. I knew what I built. And I knew what you signed. What I didn't know was that you'd remove me without reading the contracts tied to $12 million in revenue. Silence. Even the board members on Zoom had stopped fiddling with their cameras. I slid a printed sheet into view. This is the email I sent the day of my termination. It activated the clause. It was addressed directly to the authorized contract recipients. His eyes dropped. There it was, his name sitting on the CC line like a landmine he'd stepped on himself. His shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of him. One of the board members finally spoke. So, we fired the person holding the keys to our 3 largest accounts, and didn't consult legal. I said nothing. Just let it hit them one blow after another. The general counsel broke the silence. We may be in breach of trust doctrine if clients claim misrepresentation during the transition. That's exposure beyond contract loss. Translation: this wasn't just bad. This was litigious. The CEO turned back to me. His eyes were glassy desperation wrapped in bravado. "Can this be salvaged?" he asked. I looked at him the way a nurse looks at a flatline monitor. "Only if they want it salvaged. And right now, they're not returning your calls. They're returning mine." That landed like a brick dropped in holy water, sudden cold and echoing. The room went quiet enough to hear the HVAC kick on. I closed my notebook, straightened my posture. "Anything else I can clarify?" No one spoke. The meeting ended 7 minutes later. The CEO didn't say goodbye. The invite vanished from my calendar before I even logged out. I shut my laptop and returned to my morning tea. Still hot. It tasted like slow-burning vindication. The next meeting wasn't on Zoom. This one was in the boardroom. Real chairs, real coffee, real panic humming under $300 leather shoes and layers of under-eye concealer. They'd flown in 2 board members for it, which meant things were bad enough to cancel golf games and rearrange private jet schedules. The CEO was already seated when I walked in, flanked by legal on one side and the VP of sales on the other. The VP looked like he hadn't shaved, slept, or blinked in 36 hours. I didn't smile, didn't ask how they were. I just pulled a single sheet of paper from my folder and slid it across the polished table. "You wanted clarity," I said. "This is the email." Printed in crisp black ink. No markup, no highlights. Just the original message I'd sent the day they'd canned me. The subject line bold and merciless. Notice of termination, trigger contract clause. 4.7. I watched the CEO's eyes lock on that line, like his shoe had just stepped in something expensive. He picked up the page with 2 fingers like it might burn him. He scanned the first 2 lines. Stopped. Read them again, slower this time. 3 names, 3 clients. No CC, no BCC, no filler. Just the holy trinity of our highest-paying accounts, all notified before the dust had even settled on my vacant office chair. His lips moved, but no sound came out. The silence in the room was so sharp it could have sliced an apple. Someone in legal coughed, but it only made the tension thicker. Finally, the CEO's voice broke through, cracking like an overstretched guitar string. "Is this a joke? Please tell me this is a joke." His face had gone the color of printer paper. His hands trembled as he flipped the page over, like maybe the punchline was hiding on the back. It wasn't. I kept my tone steady. "You sent this to all 3 of them?" the CEO asked. "Correct," I said. "Surgical. Precise. Our mutual agreement made it clear the clients were entitled to notice the moment my account lead status was revoked. You triggered the clause the same day within 90 minutes of receiving your termination email." His eyes darted to legal, wild and searching. Why wasn't I told? Why wasn't this flagged? The general counsel looked like he'd rather dissolve into the carpet. "It was embedded in the master contract, sir. You signed them personally." But no one flagged it. No one. I folded my hands neatly in front of me. "You optimized me out of the budget before checking the locks on your own vault." One of the board members, older with military posture and the eyes of a man who's read too many bad after-action reports, leaned forward. "All 3 clients received this." "Yes," I said. 2 replied within 24 hours. The 3rd by the next morning. All 3 invoked the clause. The board member exhaled, not in anger, but in resignation. We fired the one person who could have stopped it. The CEO buried his face in his hands like he was praying to the god of undo buttons. The VP of sales made a last-ditch attempt at control. "Is there any chance we can renegotiate, extend goodwill? Offer a retention discount?" I turned to him. "You sent Trent to replace me on BTK's weekly call. He showed up 12 minutes late, and called their CFO by the wrong name. They're not looking for goodwill, they're looking for competence. No one laughed. It wasn't funny anymore. The CEO sat back as if someone had just pushed him into the chair. He looked 10 years older than he had when the meeting began. "What do they want?" he asked. I shrugged. They want what I gave them: stability, institutional memory, consistency, none of which you currently have in your org chart. The older board member stood up, already reaching for his coat. Meeting adjourned. "We've got calls to make." I gathered my things quietly. No dramatics, no smug monologue, just the soft rustle of paper and the cold, clean exit of a woman who knew she no longer belonged in their disaster. The door shut behind me and their voices rose instantly, sharp, overlapping, desperate. And me, I smiled. Not big, not loud, just enough to feel the tremor of satisfaction in my chest. Just enough to feel the tremor as the truth finally hit the floor. By Thursday, the building wasn't just tense, it was radioactive. The first public sign came at 9:32 a.m. when a finance reporter tweeted a cryptic line: "3 flagship clients withdraw from Halston & Cohen's in 1 week." Developing story. The stock dipped 2% before lunch. By 3 p.m., it was down 5%. The board scrambled to issue a non-statement vague language about client realignment and ongoing retention initiatives. Inside the company, Slack lit up like a Christmas tree wired by a tipsy electrician. Someone leaked my real termination email. Not the polite HR boilerplate, the real one. The one that read, "Your bonus is an expired subscription." It hit the off-topic channel first, then the meme channel, then Twitter. By the next morning, HR blasted a mass email warning that sharing internal documents could result in disciplinary action. 4 minutes later, someone posted that exact warning right under the leaked email, complete with a crying, laughing emoji. By Friday, internal morale wasn't just dead, it had been dissected, buried, and memeified. That afternoon, the HR director resigned. Quietly. No farewell cupcakes, no group photo, no LinkedIn bittersweet announcement. Just an auto reply: "Out of office indefinitely. Please contact HR support at Halston & Co. for all inquiries." The only thing colder than that inbox was the way employees avoided eye contact when walking past the now curtained HR glass suite. The nameplate was gone, as if it had never been there, like a failed restaurant mid-eviction. The VP of Sales tried to hang on longer. He scheduled back-to-back alignment meetings and posted a few too many motivational quotes on LinkedIn, classic drowning man behavior. But the writing wasn't just on the wall, it was in Salesforce. Client retention numbers looked like a ski slope. Revenue forecasts were suddenly prefaced with pending resolution of legacy contract issues. By Tuesday, he was gone. Transitioned out corporate code, for we gave him a severance package and a clean NDA if he promised to disappear quietly before the shareholders skinned him alive. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't tweet. I didn't drop a single comment on the viral posts. I just watched from the outside, calm, detached, a ghost in their machine. I wasn't on a beach in the Caribbean sipping margaritas. I wasn't burning sage on some mountain retreat. I was home. Same Boston apartment. Same chipped coffee mug. Same grocery list on the fridge. The only difference, I had my time back. My spine intact. My phone lighting up not with frantic calls from managers or late-night emergencies, but with quiet pings from people who finally understood what I'd been holding together all those years. I hadn't burned the building down. I'd simply walked out and left the matches in the drawer. I called the new venture Halston line simple, clean, impossible to mispronounce on a sales call. No focus groups, no LinkedIn polls. Just me, a $12 domain name, and the clarity that only comes from watching your old company devour itself from the inside out. No bloat, no jargon, no 30-slide onboarding decks written by someone who'd never once spoken to a client. I didn't want to scale fast or disrupt markets. I wanted something lean, agile, human. I started with a single laptop, a dusty ergonomic chair, and a Trello board labeled Day 1. It felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for 8 years. No grand announcement, no dramatic founder video, just a quiet email to a handful of trusted contacts. I'm available. No drama, no pitch decks, just results. 1 week later, 3 onboarding forms hit my inbox, digitally signed, time-stamped. Clients Franklin Weston and Harper. Same people, same challenges, same expectations. But this time, they weren't tied to a corporate logo. They'd chosen me. They didn't blink when I sent the new rates. If anything, they paid faster than before, like they wanted as much distance as possible between themselves and the mess they'd left behind. One note at the bottom of a form read, "Honestly, should have done this years ago." I didn't cry, but my hands did shake a little when I clicked approve. That first Monday, I woke without a calendar stuffed with pointless meetings, no quick syncs, no performance review prep, no political posturing disguised as project updates, just focus, deep work. By lunch, I'd resolved 3 client issues. By 2 p.m., I drafted a fresh contract. And I still had time to make myself a real lunch, the kind that requires a knife, not a microwave. This wasn't about revenge anymore. I wasn't thinking about HR emails or viral leaks or which VP was still clinging to his swivel chair. I was building something. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for permission. The revenue didn't intimidate me. The responsibility didn't weigh me down. It felt earned, like this was the work I'd been doing all along, only now on my own terms. I hung a cheap whiteboard over my kitchen counter and wrote 3 words in bold black marker: protect. Deliver. Disconnect. Protect the clients. Deliver the results. Disconnect when the work is done. No ping fatigue. No Slack shame. No open office buzzwords bouncing around like bad echoes. Just quiet momentum. And that was enough. It still is. The email hit my former CEO's inbox on a gray Thursday morning, the kind of static charged day when even the printer feels like it's judging you. The subject line was plain: no urgency, no legal jargon. We prefer relationships that value loyalty. No greeting, no sign-off. Just one sentence sitting alone at the bottom like a lit match on dry grass. People don't leave companies. They leave managers. No name. No logo. But he knew exactly who it was from and exactly why it had been sent. By then, the dust had settled into the walls of that glass-walled boardroom. The investors had stopped returning calls. More executives had been transitioned out. HR was now outsourced to a faceless third-party firm with even less compassion than the one it replaced. The stock had crawled back a few points, but the reputation, that was still bleeding somewhere behind the annual report's cheerful bar graphs. He stared at the email, blinking like maybe it would vanish if he looked away fast enough. It didn't. And then there was the CC line. My name. That's what really hit him. Not the quote. Not the lack of a signature. But the fact that I was included not as a threat, not as a taunt, but as part of a conversation happening completely outside his walls. I read it at my kitchen table over a cup of mint tea. No rush, no spark of glee, no fist-pumping satisfaction. Just the clean click of understanding that the final piece had landed exactly where it was meant to. I didn't forward it, didn't reply, didn't gloat. I just smiled, a quiet, tired smile that came from somewhere deeper than victory. Then I closed my laptop. The silence that followed was peaceful. Not because I'd won. Not because he'd lost. But because I was no longer part of their noise. I had left the room. And now they finally understood I'd been the roof holding it all together. You've just walked with me through one of the hardest and most liberating chapters of my life. Now I want to hear from you. If you've ever been underestimated, pushed aside, or told you were replaceable, I want you to share your story in the comments. Tell me what happened, what you did, and what you wish you had done. Let's make that comment section a place where experience, resilience, and sharp thinking get the spotlight they deserve. And if you believe in what I stood for, loyalty, integrity, and doing the job right, even when no one's looking, hit that subscribe button. Not just because it helps this channel grow, but because every click is a reminder to people like my old CEO that we're not invisible and we're certainly not replaceable. When you subscribe, you're standing with me and with every person who's ever been told they don't matter after years of showing up and giving everything. Here's the truth I've learned. You don't always have to set a fire to make your point. Sometimes the quietest exits leave the loudest echoes. Protect what matters, deliver on your promises, and know when to disconnect from people and places that no longer value you. Your worth doesn't vanish just because someone else failed to see it. So subscribe, comment, and share this story with someone who might need the reminder. Let's build a community that celebrates wisdom over noise, consistency over flash, and dignity over desperation. You and I, we've earned the right to stand tall, and we're not done yet.